Ted, can't play without my hand. Let me know. Can't play without my hand.
Sit right there.
That's what? Without what?
Yeah, we got Stan.
No, I'm kidding. Well, you want me to wear it?
Stan, can you move over and let Joyce sit with you?
Yes, I tell you what, let me get him a shake.
I'm fine. Just sit right there.
Good?
Okay.
I can get up better on that. And if you hit me, I'll be all right too.
All right, y'all ready? Come on through.
Joyce, when I get to the back of the chapel and turn around and point at you, you stand up and start.
Look. It's got my Bible in it. I had to hunt it up so I have it to read off because I'm afraid I'll forget.
Okay. When I get back to the back of the room and point at you, you start, okay?
Tell me when to get it off. Hello, all y'all people today. Your family and friends of friends. If you didn't know Edna, you wouldn't have took the time to be here. And we do welcome you here, and we're glad you are here to celebrate Edna's life. And I'm going to start out with this. Just stay seated. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer if I can find it. I know it by heart.
You told me you did.
Well, yeah, I told you I did. Okay. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I've got a short story to tell about Edna. When I was a young girl, I would stay with Edna a lot. Son would, my sister Joan would. We'd stay with Edna, and I would notice at night that Edna would go around and tell us all, "Good night, I love you." And she'd say, "Joyce, good night, I love you." And I said, "I love you too." And I didn't realize till then that you could say things like that. And she taught me to say, "Good night, I love you." I taught my boys. They have taught their girls. And they are now teaching their great-grandkids. It's "Good night, I love you." And that's Edna teaching me that, or showing by example, was one of the best things she ever did for me, to say, "I love you." And it just come freely. Thank you.
Joy, that was beautiful.
I didn't want to say too.
My moral support, Susanna. I tried to write a speech about Mom, but it's hard to think about somebody that's been in your life for 71 years. I mean, just thousands of thoughts twirl through your mind, and you think about how much you butted heads, which Mother and I did frequently because we're both pretty strong-willed, stubborn women. But we were just as quick to apologize and tell each other how much we loved each other. And that woman was independent until the day she left us. So She had a good life, and I hope we're celebrating it today. And I hope you will bear with me as I do the obituary. I probably won't say Edna all the time because I always said Mama. And the only time I said mother was like when you tell your kid, you better straighten up, and you use their full name. If we were getting close to an argument, I'd go, Mother. Edna Hubbard, 90, of Forsyth County, passed away on Monday, September 29th, 2025. She was born here in Dawson County on September 14th, 1935. We were fortunate to have a 90th birthday party for her, and she did so well that day, and it was such a happy day for everybody. She's preceded in death by her parents, Ed, Burt, and Corey. I called her Corey Burt, not Carrie, and Bishop Burt of Dawsonville. Well, I actually called him Ma and Pa.
Yeah.
And she's her husband, Herman Hubbard of Forsyth County, her sisters, Marty Robinson, Ethel Odom, Betty Striplin, brother Edwin Burt, and her granddaughter, Amy, who she never missed a day talking about. She's survived by me, her daughter, Patsy Odom Brookshire, and my partner, Stan Estes of Forsyth County. Her son, Bobby Phils, is in the hospital. He's okay. He's just broken his foot and is in a wheelchair and could not come today, but he wanted everybody to say thank you to everybody and that he loved his mother very much. She's also survived by her sister, Peggy McGee, who talked at least 3 or 4 times a day to her. And I know that she's going to miss their conversations. She's also survived by her brother, Billy Burt, and his wife, Diane. And Billy, I knew if Mama didn't text me or call me, that Billy would call me if she didn't answer that phone because he called her every morning. She's also survived by her grandson, Cody Brookshire, and his wife, Brittany. She loves him so much. She's so proud of them and the life that they have built together. Her granddaughter, Susanna Brookshire, who called her cat. And why we do know, Susanna just won't tell you. When Susanna was little, Mother kept her, and she made her watch Meerkat Manor all the time. I mean, every day it was Meerkat Manor, and so she just started calling her cat. And Susanna and her partner, Alex Hoffman, is with us. Her grandson, Joseph Fields, his wife, Brittany, great-grandchildren, Terrence T. Hand, and Jaden Fields, and former son-in-law, Douglas Brookshire, numerous nieces and nephews, and I see a lot of the nieces and nephews out here, and Stacy's been a big help to me these last years of Mom's life when I needed somebody close by. Son called her every Saturday morning, and she did not let me forget that, so I hope he takes that as his good memory and thinks about it. Edna was a great storyteller. She loved sharing stories and tales of growing up in rural Dawson County. She was just telling Cody, and he was showing her how on Google he could find the little place that she was born in Dawson County, Chinatown. China. And she thought that was a fantastic thing. He was fortunate that he came down and spent 4 nights with her during her birthday, and she just really loved that. She was a devoted parent and grandparent who cooked for them. They cooked. As she got older, I didn't get any food to go home with me. But Susanna and Cody would come over, and suddenly she was cooking away. And I was like, why does Susanna get all this food and Cody and I don't? But She still made biscuits. I don't know how many of you grew up in a house where the biscuits were put on the side of the counter after whatever was left over, and you ate those later in the day. I could still go into Mom's house up to about 6 months ago, and I said, why can't you make just 1 or 2 biscuits? She said, I can't, I have to make a panful. So I would go in there and still eat a biscuit. It was one of the many things that I will always remember, that from my grandparents and then that tradition from my mother. She loved to read and traded books with her friends all the time, and Peggy, and it was all kinds of stories. I was ordering more books from Amazon than I thought I'd ever order before she passed away. She engaged in many crafts such as painting and sewing. We all have pillows. She used to make bean bags, and I would take them to school, and I'd let my kids play with them on the rainy days, throw them in at the trash can at recess. And she sold a painting at Roundabout Rockies, Stacy. Yep. And she got the check in the mail from Tracy Burnett, and she was so thrilled that one of her paintings had been sold. That somebody from North Carolina had saw it online and bought it. So that was, she was like, I'm an artist now. For many years, Edna and her husband Herman enjoyed an active social life in their cabin community in such as Georgia. The first time, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get a beach house, but the first time I went up there and I saw my 50-something-year-old mother come whirling around on a four-wheeler, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, you'll love it. And I know I'm not going to ride. Well, a couple years later I was riding, but she loved that cabin. She loved the social life she had up there and all the friends. She loved going out with her friends and collecting antiques. You'll hear more about that later. She was also an avid gardener who enjoyed tending her tomatoes and flowers. She grew a garden every year. Cody was just relating something about that the other day, and last year she really couldn't get out and get her flowers up, so we had them all on the back porch. And she would throw the deer corn and accidentally grew these 4 stalks of corn, which are on my front porch right now as a decoration for fall. She loved feeding the local wildlife. The deers would just stand in the yard. Mom had them trying so that she could make a little sound with the bucket and they would be there. So I want to thank everyone for being here today, and one of the most precious things I guess my mother did for me was keep Cody and Susanna while I taught school. I had 2 great passions in life, motherhood and teaching school, and Mama allowed me to pursue both of those by keeping my kids for me. So I just can never thank her enough. She lived just like she wanted to the very end. She had her independence. She didn't have to go anywhere. She didn't have to leave her home. And we need to remember what Mama said in that brochure if you picked it up. If you're going to think about me, smile, or don't think about me at all. So I want you, when I've been talking to the kids lately and we've had a sad memory, I'd say, no, you think of a happy time you had with your grandmother. You had so many good times with her that we have to, that's how I want everybody to remember what Mama said. We're going to think about her, smile. Thank you all.
snow white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. When troubles surround us, when evil comes, body grows weak, spirit grows numb. When these things beset us, does not forget us, sends down his love on the wings of a dove. On the wings of a snow white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, sign from above, the wings of a dove. When Noah had drifted on the flood many days, he searched for land various ways. Troubles he had some, but he wasn't forgotten. He sent his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, sign from above, on the wings of a dove. When Jesus went down to the river that day, he was baptized in the usual way. When he was done, God blessed his son, sent him his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sent his pure, sweet love, sign from above, on the wings of a dove, wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. Thank you.
Beautiful. Mother would have loved that. Well, Mama would have loved that way, I better say it.
Give me just a moment. I don't have this written out. It's on my phone. We live in 2025, so. Yeah, okay. So, how do you sum up the life of someone who lived for 90 years? It's a monumental and impossible task, especially for someone who had such a rich and varied life as she had. Now, because of the impossibility of this task, I'm going to end up asking for help from each of you today. We'll get to that soon. Edna Hubbard lived from September 14th to September 30th, 2025. That's 32,889 days. And for 14,690 of those days, I got to share existence with her. And you can be darn sure that she was with me from day one. I'm sure grandmother was called many names, most of them good probably, in her life. But at that point, she became grandmother. And much like my sister refers to her as Kat and Mama, I just called her grandmother. And I've heard stories of the days before I was around, of course. As Mom mentioned, grandmother loved to tell stories, and we loved to hear them just as much as she loved to tell them. I don't know if I can speak to those too well, but much like her siblings don't have the same memories of her that her children have, we all have different view of who Edna was. While I can only speak to the perspective I have, I will soon be inviting each of you to actively think of your own memories of her. This is the time and the place for us to do this together. So, first thing I wanted to talk about was grandmother's generosity. The thing that comes to mind for me is just the gifts. I just got so many gifts when I was younger. I mean, most of the time I got picked up from school. I enjoyed a trip to a Walmart to get a toy. Almost, it feels like it was every day. It might have been, but she spoiled me rotten to the core with gifts. A lot of toys. I remember there was was it the green Power Ranger?
Ranger, yes.
Did she get that in Mississippi?
No,
Biloxi?
she drove up to Dawsonville and bought it for like 50 or 60
Okay,
bucks to complete your collection.
I had the other ones. The green one was the one, though. And grandmother was on a mission, and she, had found it, and that made me so happy. And there's many other countless ones that I'm forgetting, to be honest with you. But that's one that sticks in my head, is the green Power Ranger. Now, as I got out of childhood and moved into more of my teenage years, and I started playing guitar and being in bands, a lot of what I was wanting as gifts was like music equipment, guitars, amps, pedals, cool other accessories, and she maybe wasn't as good as picking out those gifts, but that didn't stop her from trying, and it certainly didn't stop her from just straight up giving me money for them. But she would say, take this and go get that guitar. And Mom, Dad, Susanna, you'll remember the white pointy guitar that I had. Yes. That was money. A lot of that money came from grandmother for a gift, and she knew I wanted that guitar, and so she gave me some money for that. And actually believe some of the other money came from George. Yes. Which is kind of funny. But so we named the guitar I gave all the guitars names, as you do. But I named that one Jedna. It was like George and Edna combined. And I don't know how much she thought about that combination, but that was funny, and we had a good chuckle about that. And then later, as an adult, when I was in grad school and starting my life with Brittany, lots of the gifts would help us get through times when money was tight, money was lean, and I would come down and visit her from Illinois when I lived there for a while, or Arkansas, and she always managed to sneak me a check or sneak me like a 50 or something when Mom wasn't looking. I don't know why she didn't want to do it. She didn't want you to see, but it wasn't her business. That's true. That's true.
I wasn't getting the money.
Yes, that's true. So, gifts. Grandmother's generosity there was really sticks out to me with that. I also think of the cabin. That was mentioned already. That cabin holds a lot of memories. I think maybe a good handful of you have been to that have been to that cabin in Suches, Georgia, and it was a place where she could bring her daughter and her kids and her son and their kids and her friends. Ended up making a lot of friends in that community, and I remember the four-wheelers very vividly. That was so fun to ride around on the four-wheelers. And yeah, grandmother commanded a four-wheeler pretty amazingly. I remember doing that as a child and enjoying playing in the river. Yeah, we had some. And then later, in my teens and my 20s, I had like graduated to being able to go up there on my own and bring friends, and then one day she didn't know it at the time, but I took Brittany up there, and I proposed to her at the it wasn't at the cabin, but it was in a park near the cabin, and then we went back and celebrated, but at the cabin. But I think just the cabin sticks out to me a lot, and it was a place that she wanted us to, all gather and have a good time. Grandmother loved a good gathering. And last thing I wanted to mention is Brittany's wedding ring is actually one of grandmother's rings that she gave to me to use to propose, and Brittany still has it on her finger, and has the stone around her neck, and I think of my grandmother every time I see Brittany, and yes, that is a huge compliment. But so just on this thought of generosity, I've shared what I remember about her, so maybe you just take just a few moments. We'll close our eyes. This doesn't work unless you buy in. Everybody close your eyes. And maybe think of grandmother. If you didn't know her that well, think of a time that someone else was generous to you. Just that spirit of generosity. Think of a time that grandmother was generous with you, or you witnessed her generosity. Okay. I also, another big trait that came to mind for grandmother was how nurturing she was. Many times when I was a child and I was sick, a call to mom or to grandmother. Usually grandmother would come get me because mom would also have to get out of school. Grandmother would come get me and just get me whatever I needed. Usually it was like some chicken noodle soup and putting Wheel of Fortune or whatever comes on those channels in the middle of the day. And she just had such a great sort of motherly attitude to take care of people when they were sick, when they felt down, when they felt sad. She had a really good knack for being nurturing. Grandmother's affection for the local wildlife was already mentioned. We were talking, Brittany and I were talking about that last night, that she loved feeding the all wild variety of animals that come up on her porch, and she did that at the cabin too. I can remember some times when some turkeys actually came across through the area down below where the driveway was, and think of all the deer that she would see, and that just made her so happy to even just watch the wildlife and feed them God knows what, whatever was left over. And again, on the nurturing note, cooking for everyone. She loved to cook, and boy, did I love to eat it. I think she loved to cook for us just as much as we all love to eat it. And we're gonna have to get that. We're gonna have to try that chicken recipe. She has a secret, yeah.
Yeah, it was secret. Mama never learned. She didn't like anyone in her kitchen.
Yeah, that sounds right too. That sounds right too. I remember trying to help her a lot in her later years, and she'd, no, just go sit back down. Meanwhile, she's like rolling around. I'm trying to help her, and she didn't want the help. Independent, right?
Didn't want anything in that body in the kitchen.
So, again, now let's take a moment, just a brief moment, to think of a time when Edna you witnessed her being nurturing, or you felt her nurturing spirit. Just close your eyes. And again, if you didn't know Edna that well, you can think of a time that someone was nurturing to you. It's that spirit. Okay. Lastly, grandmother had presence, and she was present for a lot of my life. We have a lot of the same things in our little speeches, but
Okay.
getting off the bus every day, she was there. I remember, so usually there's like a biscuit that she had cooked from that morning, or some other snack she had whipped up, wanted us to try. Me and Susanna would get off the bus, and she was there waiting. Had helped Mom with other chores around the house, and entertained Susanna and I, make sure we weren't getting into too much trouble until Mom got home. But she was there for so many years. When I tell my friends about grandmother, I have a lot of new friends in Richmond now, but when I tell my friends about grandmother, it's one of the first things I say, is that I feel like she raised me just as much as my father and my mother did. She was there just as much. And most of my mom's, my sisters, and my friends knew grandmother really well. Scott knew grandmother very well. Lance knows grandmother very well too. Lots of my friends knew her, and she was always around. Whether it was a little party for myself, Patsy Palooza, one of the many Patsy parties, where all of our friends, Mom's, Susanna's, mine's, people gathered. Grandmother was just always there. And I also think about having just good conversations with grandmother. She was a good conversationalist. She really listened. And that's something that, I can own up to. I'm not the best listener all the time, but grandmother was a really good listener. And when you sat down to have a conversation with her, she would listen and reply back thoughtfully. So, once more, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and think of a time that Edna was present in your life, or her impact of her presence, you felt that in some way. Close your eyes and envision that. Generous, nurturing, and present. These traits she had in spades. One way that we can honor someone who has passed is to try and live like them, or adopt a mentality or an approach of their life to your own. So I will invite you all to try and be a little more generous than you were yesterday. Maybe be a little bit more nurturing to those people in your wildlife. the wildlife in your life, or to be a little bit more present for the people you love the most. I think if we can all try a little bit of that here and there, grandmother would feel so honored. So thank you for indulging in this little experience and helping me get through the speech today. Honestly, I felt more worried about this than I did about playing, but I think you guys imagining this at the same time as me has given me some comfort. So I hope it's given you some as well. I hope this helps you remember, mourn, grieve, but ultimately celebrate Edna Hubbard. As a final thought I'd like to share, there's a saying about death and carrying on the memory of someone. It's something like, you die twice, once when you stop breathing, and a second time, a little later on, when somebody thinks of you for the last time. If that's the case, she is most definitely with us all here today. Very strongly, we made sure of that. But I also think it's safe to say that Edna Hubbard will be enjoying a second life with us in our hearts and minds for a very long time to come. Thank you.
I have to read because I get nervous doing this. It's not my jam. You know when you're little and your parents finally let you go spend the night with someone and you cry around bedtime because you want to go back home? I was never that kid. I loved sleepovers. I used to spend the night with Edna and Herman when they lived in Hickory Hills off of Little Mill Road. Herman would lay on the couch and try to watch TV, and I took great pleasure in running him off the couch by laying in behind him in a little space and squirming around till he would finally cuss and get up and give me the couch. Edna would keep me entertained and well fed. One of my greatest memories is Edna feeding me apples. For a snack, she would peel me an apple, and she'd give me the peeling and tell me to throw it over my shoulder and let it hit the floor. And whatever letter it seemed to make on the floor, that would be the first letter of the name of my future boyfriend. I no longer throw peelings on the floor, but I think about Edna every time I peel an apple. She also had this root outside of her house at Hickory Hills that she had to step on before she could go in the house. Some of you remember that. I know Mom remembers it and Patsy remembers it. She had to step on that root or she could not go in the house. That was a little ritual she had, and she had several more. Aunt Edna and I shared a love for the animals. You've heard of that already. She could feed squirrels right out of her hand. They would come up and she could feed them from her hand. I tried to do that all the time, but it never works for me. So the deer and the squirrels, the possums and stray cats and raccoons on Shady Grove are definitely going to miss Edna. She and Herman had the cleanest dogs around. I grew up with Ugly, one of their bulldogs, and he got a bath every single night. Then she would powder him. He wore baby powders. Edna was always known for her fabulous complexion, and is the reason that we all use Pond's cold cream. She told me one time, she said, now at night, clean your face real good, and then really lather on that Pond's. That's the key, is to really lather it on. She told me a couple of weeks ago that a man in Ingalls had stopped and asked her out in the Ingalls. She said to him, I'm almost 90 years old. No, I don't want to go out with you. But she was very amused by it. Flattered is a great word. 2 Corinthians tells us to be absent of the body is to be present with the Lord. Heaven is described as this: a majestic city with golden streets and gates of pearl, walls made from precious stones, lush gardens and crystal clear rivers, never wilting flowers and bird song, natural beauty, glory, and joy with a profound sense of peace and perfection. As Christians, we believe in the recognition and reunion with our loved ones in heaven. Our relationships will continue with each other in the presence of the Lord in a perfect, eternal state. Edna has joined a brother and sisters, her mother and father, nieces, nephews, a granddaughter, and many special friends in heaven. I am happy for that reunion, not only for her, but for us all also.
Hello, family and friends. My walk with Edna was a real good thing. She was my older sister, and when I was born, she was already 12 or 13 years old. And I remember some of my farthest back memories is her picking me up and walking around with me. And we just always had a good relationship. And for the last several years, she and I communicated every morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And we just talked about everything. She was my friend. And we could discuss anything with each other and all like that. And whenever I'd call, I'd say, "This is your brother Bill in the Shinbone Valley." And she'd say, "This is your sister Edna on Shady Grove Road." And we'd have a good conversation, never less than 30 minutes, and usually as much as an hour, hour and a half, every morning. And I used to, every 4 months, I'd go to my Dr. Markey over there, and it was always on a Monday morning, and I'd go on Sunday, and I'd spend the night with Edna. And Lord have mercy, as you've heard these other people back here say, she could cook. Now, I'm telling you, she could cook. And them little biscuits that she cooked, I usually wind up taking 2 or 3 of them with me when I'd leave. And I'd go to the doctor first, and then she'd say, "Call me when you leave the doctor's office, and I'll have it nearly ready when you get here." Okay, I'd go back and eat with her. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And we'd never hang up after we talked without telling each other we loved one another. And that was a big thing with Edna. She wanted to hear people say, "I love you." And I did. I loved her. And I used to tease her a little bit about whatever I could think of. But after she had her birthday on her 90th birthday, and I talked to her the next day, I said, "Edna, you got it made." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You hardly ever hear of anybody dying after they get 90 years old." I said, "You just gonna go on and on." And she laughed, and she said, I don't know. But Edna, if you could think and map out a way to live and die, she had a good walk. She had a good mind. Wasn't nothing wrong with her mind, all the way up till the last day. And she would talk, and we would talk, and we'd confide things in each other that we didn't talk about with nobody else. And but anyhow, it's hard to think now that she's gone. It really is. Every morning I get up and thinking I got to take care of the dad blame cat and then call Edna. But anyhow, and she would tell me how to take care of that cat. You could do this, do that. But anyhow, that's about all I got to say. I loved Edna. She loved me. And I was so proud to have a sister like her. So thank y'all very much.
I'm Lenore. I feel like every one of y'all know me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Me and Edna have been friends for 40 years. I'd say more like a sister. We've been to every yard sale that we could find. Been to every flea market we could find. We went to every antique store between here and Blue Ridge. We went to every antique store between here and Chattanooga. And believe me, we both had a big collection. I'm having a hard time reading my own writing. I'll always remember the first time I carried her to Hobby Lobby. We went through the door and her eyes got big as saucers. She said, "How did they get all of these things in this store?" We have Old Timers Day at my church every so often. And we're having it this year, the 2nd of November. And a while back, Edna gave me her overalls and a shirt to go with it and a handkerchief to hang out the back pocket. So I will be wearing that at Old Timers Day. When they made Edna, they throwed away the pattern. She was definitely one of a kind. If you were her friend, she would give you anything she had. She used to call me every night about 8 o'clock. We'd talk about what we'd cooked that day and where we'd been and what we'd done. Sometimes we'd stay on the phone 15 minutes, sometimes we'd stay on the phone 30 minutes, sometimes we'd stay on the phone an hour. It's hard for me to believe that I won't ever get that phone call again. Nobody knows how I miss her. She was definitely my sidekick, and I'll always remember the things that she and I did together.
Hello, my name is Sherry Moyer. Patsy and I have been friends for over 50 years. And through that friendship, I got to know her beautiful mother, Edna. And Edna and I became fast friends. She can talk to anybody about anything. And during one of our conversations, she discovered that I'm a Christian, and that my Christian faith guides me every day. And from that point on, a lot of the conversations Edna and I had were about my Christianity, about my faith, and then in the past year or so, it got to be that we were talking a lot about her faith. A couple of years ago, maybe, she asked me would I be willing to read some Bible verses when she passed away, and I can't begin to tell you how honored I am to be here and do that for her. I have chosen a passage from the Bible that comforts me every time I read it. And I guess you can tell about my emotions that I need some comforting right now. I'm reading to you from Psalm 23. And I hope as I read these words, as you listen to these words, that it will comfort you as much as it comforts me. So think about Edna as I read this passage. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies and anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Will you pray with me, please? Father, thank you for the beauty that was Edna Hubbard. We know she is standing next to you now, one of your most radiant angels. We already miss her, Lord. So please give her a big hug from all of us and tell her she will never, ever be forgotten. We ask for you to wrap her family and friends in comfort and peace, knowing that she is completely healed and no longer in any kind of pain. We love Edna, Father, and we love you. And thank you for the many, many blessings you shower upon us every day. We whisper this prayer in your precious holy name, God. Amen.
One of Edna's favorite holidays, as you all know, was Easter. If you've been to one of Miss Edna's Easter gatherings before, would you just raise your hand here? It's just about all of you. Just about. One Easter, Pat and I were getting ready to go to Easter at Miss Edna's, and Pat said, "You're gonna bring a guitar today?" He said, "I'd like you to play something." And she said, "I want you to play Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" And I never will forget that. There was a lot of children, of course, there that day. And when we sung it, the whole crowd busted out singing at the end of the chorus, "Will the circle be unbroken?" And I looked at Miss Edna. She was sitting over on the couch where I could see her good. And I just happened to look over there while we was finishing the song. And what I saw sitting in that chair, in that couch, was joy. She was in her element. She had her family, her little children around her and having a good time. So we're going to do that today. I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that Burt come rolling to carry my mother away. Well, I told Undertaker, please drive slow, for that lady you are hauling, Lord, I hate to see her go. Let the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by. There's better on my way in the sky, Lord, in the sky. The circle be unbroken by and by.
Mama's 3 shining lights. She was so proud of all of us, and we are so happy that you came here today to celebrate Mama, grandmother, Cat, Edna's life with us. And it has been a joy to have you all here today, and I'll be remiss if I don't thank Kimmy, Burt, for helping making these last years better for all of us. I promised her I wouldn't say that, but I can't help myself, Kim. Because we love you, and you brought us great happiness. But Mom had a good, long life. She lived it her way. She was independent to the end. After her last heart attack on the 28th, I was at the hospital with Kimmy was with me, and I said, please, Mom, don't die. I've got your birthday planned. You can't go on me now. And she said, I'm tired, Patsy, I'm going. And I said, no, I've already invited people. You can't go. And she said, I love you and I love the kids, and I'm going. And a few minutes, about 10 minutes later, doctors worked on her a little while, and she said, I guess I'll stay around. So I got back on there, and she said, just maybe Billy and Peggy and make it a small birthday. Then a few days later, she said, I think I want that birthday party after all. And then a few days later, she was like, I hope a lot of people come. So I went back on the phone, restarting the birthday party that they had canceled and things, but it turned out well. She was a shining star that day, and she enjoyed it so much that I want to thank everybody for that too. I think she hung on, and after that, she sort of went downhill pretty fast, but as Uncle Billy said, she knew what was going on to the very end. She was giving the nurses directions in the hospital, don't you lose my hearing aids, those are expensive. And she just went suddenly, and I'm glad that that's really how she went. She didn't ever have to go anywhere or leave the home that she loved. And everybody is invited to join us back at the home place on Shady Grove for a continued celebration of Mom's life. We're going to have a light lunch for everyone, so I hope you will come on down and join us. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for doing it. You've been told that. I do it.